What is going on, guys and girls? How doing today? It's Single Roleplay once again, and finally the time has come to show you guys my third build of the Metamorphic, and this is the Ancestral Warchief Chieftain build. And the reason why I decided to play this build is quite a few of them actually, because I wanted to play this classic variation with the Brutus Elite Sprinkler strength stacking. And at the same time, I really wanted to see like what a Warchief is capable of doing right now, because there was a couple of really juicy mods appeared in the Conquerors of the Atlas expansion, such as Strength Boots with the Hunter mod, as well as the Warlords mod on the helmet gives you accuracy based on your strength, which is absolutely perfect for our build. This way we can completely dump the Resolute technique, which was the staple version for many years. I can finally go full crit with all the accuracy shit and just dramatic amount of damage increase, and this is exactly what happened for this build. I was completely surprised by the amount of damage I managed to squeeze it. It started out pretty on the low end, but once I realized how I can do all these tricks to get the damage out of this build, it really started shining, and the damage was absolutely ridiculous. This build surprised me in multiple ways, and I can tell you why. First of all, it's incredibly cheap. You don't need a lot of expensive items. That's why this is a fantastic league starter. It's very cheap. You need like Brutus Elite Sprinkler, some chest, some things like this and this, Tukahamu's Fortress as a shield, as a starting shield. So, and that's practically about it. Everything else just grows as you go, just buying as you go. You practically don't need anything else on top of that, so that makes build as absolutely fantastic league starter as it is. It's a well-known great league starter, and I would definitely recommend this build as a league starter along with the Earthquake Jack to the new players as well, simply because the build is so powerful and so strong and can do all content in the game. Another reason why I love this build is because of the single target damage is just absolutely fucking ridiculous. You know, guys, in the Metamorphic all the bosses have been buffed, and Shaper has almost 100 million HP right now with Awakening level 8, so that's pretty insane amount of HP in bosses. So you can clearly need more DPS now to really kind of be viable, and this build has a shit ton of DPS. In Path of Building I have over 5 million on the Warchief, and I summoned 3 of them, so that's easily 15 million DPS just on the Warchiefs. And this is kind of a valid DPS because you can clearly see how I shaped Shaper with this build. I faced Shaper, I faced Cyrus multiple times. He doesn't really do anything, and yeah, it's pretty insane. The damage, guys, is pretty insane. It's like unlike anything I've seen. I don't know how exactly this build compares to my other old existing builds, because I know some of them kind of a little fall behind in terms of DPS, but this one I can guarantee, Jesus Christ, the damage is just absolutely, guys, fucking ridiculous. This is the Shaper fight, and surprisingly the Shaper hasn't really shoot any balls at me. I think it doesn't really shoot in one ball at me as far as I can tell. This was absolutely just instantly phasing Shaper with a fucking 100 million HP. That was absolutely ridiculous. So can totally recommend this build. As for the cons of the build, I would say that the only con of the build is that it actually is a totem build, and not many people like totems. It's a pretty slow mapping. It's pretty kind of annoying because you need to place the totem, you know, literally behind your face, near you, and it has pretty low AoE. You can guess increase area of effect, of course, but it run with a conk effect. I mean, it's kind of not for everyone. It's a totem build. It's pretty slow mapping. At the same time, for Delve, it is definitely not the best, because once again, you know, it's a totem build. You place shit, and then it starts killing things. If there are some very fast monsters with some onslaught, increase attack speed, increase movement speed, they can surround really fast. This is also not a super tanky build, I would say. It has enormous amount of sustain. It's very sustainable. Regeneration and leech provided by the totems and the Chieftain ascendancy is absolutely fantastic, but it's not very tanky. It doesn't have enormous amount of armor and physical damage reduction like the Juggernaut. So it's not that good for delving. It's not really good for face tanking. You can't really face tank shit. It's all about dealing damage, sustaining, running around, regenerating, leeching of the totem damage, and that's about it. But it's not really the unkillable build, definitely not. I would say it's moderately squishy as it is, but it's does all the job you need. Before we go further into the video, I would like to stop for a second and thank my Patreon supporters and Twitch subscribers. You guys are making a huge impact on my life and allow me to get going and continue creating content for all of you. Thank you so much. If you want to make it into the list and immortalize yourself on the internet, join Patreon to get sneak peeks and behind the scenes footage of my work. I'm always looking for feedback on my content, guys, in order to improve, so making sure you always leave comment, like or dislike. Your reaction is very important. And remember,
you, yes you, are making a difference.
Here we are in the Path of building us, and this is a level 95 Warchief tree. And the reason why we go with the Chieftain in general is because we will not be doing any damage on our own using totems. And Chieftain is the only ascendancy that allows you to leech 1% of damage dealt by your totems to you as life. And this pretty much is insane amount of sustain. You just run around healing but doing nothing. That's why Chieftain is definitely the first priority. As for ascendancy points, the first is definitely Tukahama's first. Then we go into Ramaka Sunlight, then Hirnikora, and the last is Arohongui, which basically is increased damage. For the bandits, Kilol. For the pantheons, Orakali and Shikari for poison. As for the skill tree, starting right over here and going way up here to the Ancestral Bomb, this is your first big priority. This is definitely mandatory because you will have 2 totems with this. And then right into this juicy Mace Crit Notes, Painforge and Galvanic Hammer, mandatory. Grab Purity of Flesh on the road. And then we are going in the opposite side of the tree, and right here stretching over to this juice down below, which is buffing our Ancestral Protectors. And the way the build works, we'll be using 3 Ancestral Warchiefs and 2 Ancestral Protectors to give us more attack speed, which in general transition to more damage to your Warchiefs. So the way it works, there are many different things that can buff your kind of a buff, give more effectiveness to the buff provided by the Ancestor Totems, which is the Panopticon, as well as the Ascendancy of the of the Chieftain itself, which is Tukahama. 50% increased effect of buffs granted by active Ancestor Totems, which just transitions to absolutely enormous amount of attack speed and attack rate and damage transition to your Warchiefs through the Ancestor Protectors. This is it. So going down here and grabbing these things over here, grab a life over here, which is a Golem's Blood, and then transition on the left, grab Lava Lash, grab Utmost Might, grab Bloodless, and after that you can also grab some more life over here. And since that we are starting to get more crit and more life, I'll be specking into more life over here, grabbing some jewels over here, grabbing some barbarism, grabbing some another jewel. This is what Transcendent Flash is. I'll talk about the skill gems and the setups later. And pretty much that's about it. You can see the leveling trees, guys, here down below, which is here. You can see all the leveling trees, like from top to bottom up to 95. So pretty straightforward. Make sure you get the Ancestral Bond first, crit over here, then get this, get that, get all of that in the left bottom, and then starting more crit, especially the Disemboweling, which is it. The reason why I have this kind of empty, because I have Little Pride there, and a Little Pride also took a Vigor here. It gives me Intimidate. But in general, if you don't get the Little Pride, if you don't have the good Little Pride, you might as well just get a Blacksmith's Cloud instead, because it gives you crit, which is kind of a more straightforward way to get damage easier out of this build. So if you don't get Little Pride, if you don't want to mess around with Divines and shit, just transition through 90, like plus 95, to the Blacksmith's Cloud. That is it. So let's talk about the skills, and this is a 6 link. This is the Val Ancestral Warchief. with conk effect for bossing. This is the bossing setup that we see here. This is kind of a Shaper Elder set. Ruthless, awakening LA damage with attacks. This is purely fire build. There's no other elements. There's no physical damage whatsoever, guys. Just pure fire build because we are using Xoph's blood, which transforms all the damage into fire and gives us the avatar of fire. We're not dealing any other sources of damage other than fire. Awaken LA focus and pulverize. That's about it. For the free link, this is a trick that I personally use. This is Precision, Blood Rage, and Blood Magic. Blood Rage, keep it low because it requires enormous amount of dex. I keep it at level 11. Blood Magic linked with Precision allows you to reserve about 350 life to get an insane amount of accuracy. And when you get this insane helm, which I'll be talking about a little later, which gives you accuracy equal to strength, you should be using Precision guaranteed, because this way you will be able to reach decent amount of chance to hit. Without Precision, you will not get this amount of hit chance without this insane helmet, guys, which is the World Helmet. So definitely use Precision all the time. When you get the helmet, you can drop Precision. It doesn't really do a lot. In PvP doesn't do anything at all, but in the game it gives you still about like 10% more DPS, which is not much, but I still keep it, you know, because it's a very cheap way to get DPS. It's like, you know, reserve 350 life and you get like 5 to 10% more DPS. Why the fuck should I drop it right out of the window? I still use it. So yeah, auras, anger, enlightened, Val clarity. Clarity is extremely important. This is another trick that I personally invented. I think I've seen no one using clarity because most of the people using Tukahama's Fortress to cast everything with the blood magic and Mortal Conviction. I'll talk about it later. But Tukahama's Fortress is like a cheap option which solves the mana problem, but at the same time you lose a lot of things, like you need accuracy, you still need other things. But yeah, you can use more aura than one with the Tukahama's Fortress. You can use one aura, free reservation with Tukahama's, but you can't use anything else because it will reserve kind of more. So yeah, anger, enlighten, clarity to the max. This why it requires quite a decent amount of intelligence. Intelligence will be a struggle in this build, so you'll be maxing intelligence in any like minor way possible. That's why it's very, guys, very important. Click it over here. Cast from damage taken, full link, increased duration of mortal call, lightning golem, because the fucker will die like all the time. The reason why I have immortal call and not the molten shell, simply because I just don't have a lot of armor. And I know that some people use the molten shell, but honestly, guys, if you have like less than 20,000, 40,000 armor, it's just not worth it. Just complete waste of time. Use steel skin or immortal call. We'll be running like 3 to 4 enduring charges with enduring cry, which I'll talk about later. So definitely immortal call, I think, is a more important priority over here. So this is another 4 link, enduring cry. Shield charge, faster attacks 45 with an optional limb slam. If you like lip slamming, use lip slam. I just got used to shield charge. That's what I use the most. I just feel it's like a faster for me zooming across the map. If you use, I know there's a lot of people use lip slam, so just use it here. This is the source of our charges as well. And this is our beefer, which is Protector, Ancestral Protector. Multiple totems, summon 2 protectors at a time. Cooling Strike and Combustion. Combustion, since a protector hits with a fire, he will get chance to ignite, and supported skills apply enemies ignite, but supported skills apply minus 19 fire res. This is absolutely crazy amount of damage for bosses. This is very, very important. And flammability is here because I have it on the ring. I'll talk about this really fast in a minute. So this is the gear that I have on my exact character. This is definitely the build-defining thing, is the Brutus Lead Sprinkler Real Scepter. You can get it as early as level 29, which is quite good because this is your endgame weapon. You get it at level 28. So yeah, quite early. And try to get as good as possible a Lead Sprinkler with a lot of crit chance. This is very important. It adds 4 to 7 fire damage to attacks. With this weapon, per 10 strike, we have over 1,500 strength. That's an enormous amount of fire damage to attacks that we get for this shit, guys. This is very important. On the other hand, this is the shield kind of they need to be looked for. This is a Shaper shield, which gives +1 to maximum number of summon totems, and this is a better alternative to the Tukahammer's Fortress for a couple of reasons, which I'll explain right now. Tukahammer's Fortress gives big amount of life, damage, armor, but it has blood magic and moral conviction. Moral conviction means you can only reserve one aura, which is anger, and it means you can't get precision, you can't get clarity, you can't get anything else. And even though it gives you kind of life and damage and armor, but it takes away all the accuracy, it takes away kind of, the accuracy is probably the biggest problem, honestly. And still, even though you have blood magic, you will cast everything with the life. It's the big problem. Accuracy is the big problem. You need to get the helm, and even with the helm, you will still not have as much accuracy as with the other ways you can do it. So this is a great, Tukahammer's is great shield. Can totally recommend before you can get a GG shield like this. It's also can roll with strength, resistance, a life as well, because this shield allows you to balance resistance. You'll be struggling with resistance in this build if you want to min-max, get the most damage out of it. You'll be struggling with res. So this shield solves a couple of issues. Gives you damage, gives you utility, gives you life, gives you resistance, which is very important. So if you can get it, get it. The helmet is another key defining thing about the build. And first of all, the helmet enchant is Ancestral Protector, gives increased attack speed while active. This is very important. But the most important thing here is gain accuracy rating equal to a strength, guys. This is Warlord's mod, and you can only get it through the Warlord's influence on an item. And the best, easiest way to get it is just to literally chaos spam or just buy it as it is. The second best thing you can get it is the -5 res with this, which you can craft with the Scorch Fossil, but accuracy as strength is your first top priority. This solves absolutely all accuracy issues within the build. This is very important. This is what you should be aiming for once you reach the endgame as fast as possible. The body armor is this, and this is increased strength. This is Elder Chest. Practically this is just what I have. This is pretty insane, actually. I have also one I think open suffix server that I'm still missing. Then I'm kind of hesitating to drop an exalt on this because it will probably fuck up my resist, which is important for the Wise Oak. But this is what I need to get. Strength, increased strength. Everything else is not important. Life, res, very good. Strength, increased strength, guys, that's important. If you can get something else like the support gems, it's absolute GG like this, right? +1 to active skill gems will not give you as much as support because, totem scales with the weapon damage and it's kind of fixed for the most part, so it will not give you as much. I think I have another chest. No, I don't have it. Okay, gloves. Gloves, strength, attack speed, resist life. Spike gloves, this is it. All you need to get. Boots. This is the Hunter boots, strength, increased strength, and life. And multi-mod can be frozen shield. This is very important. The lab enchant that you need to get on this one is increased strike chance if you haven't critted recently, and since you will not be critting at all this crit will transition to your totems, so they will crit like crazy. You can see the crit chance is pretty retarded here. Even with this kind of, it's absolutely shitty crazy in my opinion. Even Diamond Flask is not important. I'll explain why, guys. So yeah, practically these are the perfect boosts you can get for this build. I have that. Xov's Blood. Xov's Blood is very important. It's huge. Increased strength. You can also quality this, and this is kind of the qualityed version of it, which gives us 12 increased strength, life, resistance, penetration, fire res, covers enemies in ash, and Avatar of Fire, which transforms all our damage into the fire, which is very important. The anointment is Shaman's Dominion. The second best is Tenacity, which gives us 5% increased life, as well as increased attack damage based on the amount of increased life, which is pretty equal to that, but Shaman's Dominion comes first. The rings are practically a couple of things. The first ring should be Flammability on hit, which is a cheap way to apply the curse, because once your totems start hitting, they will apply Flammability on hit. life, resistance, and early damage with attacks. The second ring is just to balance some shit out, such as give me an extra attributes to gain a little bit more intelligence, a little bit more dex, so I can get higher blood rage, higher clarity, as well as elemental damage with attacks and fire damage with attacks. If you get something like that, this is pretty much perfect, as you can see. The belt is really tricky. This is the Elder belt, and this is really cool shit. That's probably one of the best things I've found so far, and this gives me increased attributes. It gives me a lot of strength, which transforms into more damage and toughness, as well as increased melee damage during any flask effect, as well as increased early damage with attack skills. This is pretty ridiculous. And I had another belt which gave me like 40 early damage, but it didn't have life on that, so I decided I'm gonna leave this belt, even though it gives me kind of less damage, but it gives me more life instead, so I'm gonna leave that. For the flasks, Divine Life Flask, Wise Oak, make sure your fire damage is the biggest one. You'll penetrate this one. Diamond Flask for crit, especially if you're low 1-1, but Soul Catcher is extremely good as well, because Val skills used during effect have reduced soul gain prevention and increase and deal more damage as well. So Soul Catcher, guys, is very important. Wait a minute, Soul Catcher is a Soul Reaper. Well, any of this, I think it's Soul Catcher, right? The one that gives more Val skill damage as well. So make sure you get this one, because for mapping and for Blighted Mess, you'll be using a lot of Val Ancestral Warchief with jumping like between the packs, killing all this shit left and right. That's very good, that's very important, guys. Make sure you have this one for your mapping. And Basalt Flask, simply because, you know, the build doesn't have a lot of armor, it's quite squishy, and you just need to have this fucking physical damage reduction somewhere. So Basalt Flask is important. And the last one is Bottle Faith, which is mostly like an insane amount of DPS, increased damage, you know, all kind of shit, crit chance, consecrate ground, 10% damage taken by the enemies. That's insane amount of DPS for this build, guys. Once again, if you can get the Bottle Phase somehow, use that. If you don't, I would definitely recommend Cinder's Wall Urn. I think it's another good option as well. For the jewels, Brawn with increased strength and dex and reduced intelligence, just to give more strength and dex. Transcendent Flash over here to give you over a shit ton of crit multiplier, as well as Might of the Meek over here to give you a shit ton of increased life. Over here, thus transforms life into some juicy life, as you can see. As well as the Watcher's Eye with double anger, crit multi-anger and damage penetration. That's about 25 to 30x, and this is actually the most expensive part of the build, which is not even required. I just bought it because, you know, I wanted to min max. I want to show you guys how much damage the build does. This is the only expensive part of the build. The rest is just like not even close. I don't consider Bottle Faith a very expensive thing. It's also kind of not very needed, to be honest, just optional. And the last one, Little Pride, which I settled up over here. It gives me some crit chance on this notes. It gives me some about like 30 plus strength, as well as it gives me Intimidate on this Vigor node, which I didn't take over here because, you know, your Little Pride can be different. So I definitely prefer this kind of a more stable option. But if you can get it, I have, for example, 4 Enduring Charities and I get Intimidate. Intimidate is 10% more damage as well to the enemies, which is very nice. So I think that's about it, guys, about the skills, about the items and anything else. Let's get going. So that's about it for the build, guys, and I really hope you enjoyed it. This character was an absolute pleasure to play. I still love it. I still play it. And the coolest part about this character, you know, is it doesn't need to be level like 97 to really start doing some kind of damage and start being viable. It's very good for what it is at about like level 90 plus. You're already done. It is like it instantly phases Cyrus at Awakening 8. It's very strong. It really sustains well. It kind of regenerate leeches and all that shit. It really is very cool. Probably the strongest boss killer I've seen in a long while. And honestly, you know, I've played like 30 builds at this point. I've never seen Shaper being insta-phased by any of my builds. It always was something like, you know, he always shoots some kind of a ball at me at least, but this is the first time the Shaper didn't even shoot a single ball at me. That's the first time I see it. So I can only imagine how much damage the build has, assuming that bosses were actually kind of tripled, quadrupled, all the guardians have increased life on them, and this build like breezes through the bosses like nothing. This is probably the best bossing shit you can ever get, honestly, outside of some absolutely ridiculous mirror tier builds out there in the universe. So if you want to do bossing, this is probably a build I would definitely recommend. For mapping, it can be boring. It can get boring. It's totem build. It's not very good for Dell, but for everything else, guys, absolutely fantastic. You know, if you can get used to the totem gameplay, if you're a new player, if you want to go quite far with this, if you're going to get really far with this build, if you want to get really far in the game, if you want to, you know, get kind of a cheap build that can stretch quite far and at the same time carry you hard into the end game, this is definitely a build I can recommend, guys. This is a fresh look on the Brutus Lee Sprinkler Ancestral Warchief Totem. Definitely recommend it. Check it out. Thanks for watching and see you next time.